Welcome to the Plant-Based Podcast. Did you know that plants are truly amazing? Not only can you grow them and eat them, you can also wear them, drink them, nourish your skin with them, and so much more. Let Ellen and Michael inspire you to love plants as much as they do, as they chat with the movers and shakers in this wonderful plant-based world. So, let's dig in.
LAVA-LITE, naturally the best. Effortlessly nourish and protect your plants with a collection of totally non-toxic, environmentally friendly, sustainable, pH neutral, lightweight and 100% natural products. The collection is made up of 8 different horticultural growing and potting media and pest control products, with each continually offering the same natural benefits: thermal protection, moisture retention and control, soil conditioning, and providing a nutrient boost, as well as being completely child, pet, and environmentally safe. Learn more at lava-lite.co.uk.
What do you think of when I say living textiles? It might conjure up some images in your mind, and Beth Williams, multidisciplinary artist and fashion designer, brings those living textile images to life with incredible designs based around plants and nature.
Fascinating and inspiring, Beth's practice centers around her experience of an inaccessible world, as well as the relationship between human and environmental sustainability. So let's find out more and welcome Beth to the podcast. Hello.
Welcome, Beth.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
And you're a first timer today, so we're going to be very gentle with you. Well, we're gentle with everyone, so it makes no difference.
First time being on a podcast. Very exciting.
Thank you. Sorry, Ellen. The moment I saw a living dress and skirt and blouse, I just had to speak to you. And so that's why we're here today. So brilliant.
It's very, very cool stuff. And I can tell that you like green as well because you have green ribbons in your hair.
And green eyebrows.
And green eyebrows. I wonder, I can't quite see because of the light, but that's
behind the glasses.
That's a whole new level to green fingers.
Yeah, big fan of green.
Before we get into the questions, how do you dye an eyebrow?
With like sensitive bleach for so the stuff you put on like your stash for ladies. I just put it on my eyebrows, and then it's a mix of dyes and then using eyeshadow to kind of prolong them for a little bit longer.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah, very cool indeed. Well, welcome, Beth. Can you tell us about yourself, give us a little bit of background information, and tell us where your love of art came from in the first place?
Okay, where to start? So I'm Beth. Hi again. Hey. My background is in fashion, so that's what I did. I did a foundation degree and masters in fashion, but I've always loved being creative. Communication is something that I've always struggled with because I'm neurodivergent. So art has always been like my language and my go-to for kind of like figuring out my thoughts and just coping with life in general. And when I was like thinking about what I wanted to do as like a career, as you do when you're like in high school and everyone's like, okay, now what are you doing now? I originally wanted to be a vet because I love animals, I love nature, I love plants, but I really loved animals. But I realised I'd be a terrible vet because I just love animals too much and couldn't deal with like the awful parts of being a vet. So I decided to kind of, rather than go down a sciencey route, I wanted to go into a creative route to kind of take everything that I was using to kind of just cope with life and just finding joy in and make it into a career. But I think I figured out quite quickly that the fashion industry wasn't for me. the further I went on in like my degree and like just experiencing working in the industry, I couldn't find a way to kind of like be comfortable with how unkind it was to the planet and also the people in the industry. And I was struggling with my health anyways. So a lot of like access issues when looking for jobs and internships were coming up, and I was like, I don't think I want to do this anymore. But I love making, I love creating, and I love making clothes because it's something that we all kind of share. Like we all wear clothes. Well, probably like 99.9% of us wear clothes. So it's kind of like a common language that we can all kind of understand and communicate with. So my practice, how it is now, kind of started when I went to do my master's because I was like, I don't want to go into the industry. I can take this year to kind of reset and figure out what I want to do. So I took my practice all the way back from like making garments and knitwear to looking at like the fibre that makes up all clothes. And I was doing like research into like the history of fibres, the cultural context of them, basically everything to do with every fibre. I was just like, okay, let's find something interesting. And then I came across how wool used to be used, well, is still used, but like historically used in agriculture. So wool is often used for like mulch, or it's been used in compost because since the Industrial Revolution, like we're not really using wool anymore because of the introductions of like synthetics. And a lot of wool is going to waste. So even though it's historically used in agriculture, now it's just landing up as trash. And none of it's really going into the textile industry. So I kind of wanted to create some sort of intervention there and bring forward like the use of wool in agriculture. So I was like, okay, let's see if I can grow stuff on wool rather than having to like compost it to grow it. So I made like some little tiny samples and my first like living yarns. And then I kind of just fell in love and everything spiraled from there. And then I kind of was able to build this amazing world of living textiles, which is kind and compassionate, talks about sustainability, but also is like, I guess it's kind of like a novelty and it kind of draws people in. So I can talk about, well, I draw them in with like the novelty of like wearing living plants, and then I can talk about the things that are important to me.
Okay, so it's yeah, that's quite interesting actually, because like first of all, let's talk about how a living textile, how does it actually work? Like how do you kind of put it together, as it were? And I guess there is a shelf life, or can it kind of evolve, you know, and like kind of looking at it, you know, aside from the message that it sends across, how is it as a living piece, as it were?
Really depends on like the particular piece. So living materials isn't just like strictly textiles, it's just any kind of like living thing. And for some people that can be like bacteria or like mycelium or fungi. And for me, I like plants. But plants comes with like a lot of challenges because as your plant is growing, it needs more space. So I kind of play a lot with like different techniques. I'm matching up the techniques which will like suit the seed that I'm using. So if it needs like darkness or it needs to be covered, I play with the techniques which could offer that. And then as for its shelf life, it really does depend. Some of them are very, very short shelf life because they are somewhat crowded in a textile and they're kind of constricted. And a textile can only like offer as much support before it needs to like degrade. So some of them don't live for very long at all. And then some I will like plant out. So I just plant the whole piece into the ground and then it's able to like grow like properly into like full plants from there. And then I can like save the seeds and use it in like my next textile. So there's like several generations going on there. And then some of my pieces I I'll end up like preserving them, like drying them out or like flattening them, kind of like flower pressing, I guess. So they have a longer shelf life so they can be used like after they're grown as well.
That's very, very cool. Like, I think it would be nice for listeners to get an idea of some of the projects that you've worked on, i.e., you know, a handbag or a top, or you know, what is it that you've created and where do you get your inspiration for making them from?
So at the moment I mainly make more clothing, and I also make a lot of like masks, which are living. So I've made dresses, skirts, tops, jumpers. Haven't branched out into accessories yet, though it's something that I have wanted to do for a while, just haven't got around to it. But really, a lot of my inspiration comes from just seeing growth in unexpected places, whether that's like walking down the street and seeing like a metal fence and there's vines going up of it. It's just like taking a picture of that. Or I have like in my house, we have a really, really crappy conservatory. And it's connected to the house, but there's like a space in between. It's like plants always grow through it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like seeing those little unexpected growths that you wouldn't expect to be there. And then I also do like rely a lot on a lot of like myths and mystical and mythical stories around nature. So like moss people, like dryads from like different cultures, because I really like to have that like mystical element, because I guess wearing clothes is quite fantasy. And then I also do use a lot of references from like horror, specifically like body horror. I like Junji Ito is one of my absolute favorites, because there's this Carl Sagan quote that I always go back to, and it's every aspect of nature reveals a deep mystery and touches our sense of wonder and awe. And like, awe is as much about respect for nature as it is like fear for nature. And I really like having like those little elements inspired by horror to kind of add that fear of nature. Like nature is like massive. It's like this massive force, and it can be devastating, and we need to look after it, or it's gonna cause disaster. So it's a combination of different things and different interests that kind of overlap, and then a lot of drawing from that, creating shapes and then just intuitively making things.
Yeah,
I really love that. When you mentioned awe, I think that's a really interesting point, because I was reading something not so long ago that as humans, especially when you get a little older, you lose awe. And the best place to find a sense of awe is in the natural world. And exactly what you just said, in that it can excite you and delight you, but it can also just drive fear right into your bones, you know? So that's incredible that you're putting that into, you know, living textiles. That's a great way to bring people's attention to that as well. Very cool.
Wow. So when were your designs like first seen by the public, as it were? Was that at the London Design Festival?
So London Design Festival is actually pre like living textiles era, I guess. But that exhibition was called Human Resources, and it was all about the resources that go into clothes that are hidden, and how that kind of intersects with different people's backgrounds. So like if you're disabled, you're probably going to put more resources into making something than if you're not. Or if you come from like an ethnic minority, again, you're going to have to put more resources. Or like an if you're like economically unprivileged, I guess you put more resources into it as well. So that exhibition, it was the first time I kind of showed my work outside of an academic setting. And although it wasn't my living textiles, it's really important to me, because it was super interdisciplinary, and we were talking about the value of art and design and the work that goes into it in like in a completely new way, and considering like how things are different for different people and how like their designs are going to be informed by that. And it was just a really valuable experience, which I guess still kind of guides me now, because I was aware of all these things, but seeing it like in a really important context, like London Design Festival was this big event, and seeing it spotlighted like that, it meant a lot to me.
I'd just like to ask you, because obviously I've on your website and mentioned earlier on that your practice centers around your experience of like an inaccessible world. Can you explain what that means when it comes to fashion? Like what's inaccessible to you and others?
So for me, when I talk about my experience of an inaccessible world, like in relation to fashion, it's because I'm disabled, and the fashion industry is a very fast-paced, like capitalistic industry. Even like the higher ends, there's a lot of overworking and a lot of like toxic work culture. And for me, I was already struggling with my health. Like I was already fatigued because of that, and I couldn't keep up with those expectations of how much work you had to produce and like how much dedication you had to put in. Because it wasn't that I wasn't able to create the work, it's I wasn't able to create the work in the environment that was kind of like provided. It's like if I was working for like a big name, I wouldn't be able to like take kind of, well, how I work now is I work very much in line with my body. And like when I'm in pain or my body's like I don't have the energy, I can take a break and I can do work later, but I can't do that in like a studio design role. And also a lot of it is like when COVID happened, I was having to shield, and the work from home options just weren't there at all. So, and just as well, like neurodivergent, like I struggle with sound and sensory stuff. So even like a fashion show is something which is like really like out of the question for me. I can't cope in that situation, as well as like physically not being able to keep up with like the expected pace and having to work in like a very structured way.
Do you think that working with plants helps in itself? You know, simply, you know, the practice of working with plants, do you think that helps you?
Yeah, I mean, the reason why like I quickly fell in love with working with plants is because plants all grow in their own like unique ways. They all have their own growth process, they all need different things, and they all like grow and evolve at different times. And even though they're all doing like different things, it doesn't mean they don't grow and they're not like successful. And it kind of just taught me that I can do that too. Like I can grow and evolve how like is right for me, and I'll probably be like more successful than like if I was forced to work in a way which was not like considering my health or other factors.
Plants are amazing, right?
Yeah, and like they're just healing to be around, and like if I see like some green like growing out of a textile that wasn't there like the day before, it just like makes me smile. Like gives me a little energy boost. I'm like, yes.
It must be so exciting to see like your creations coming alive. And I have to ask, like, have they been seen in the public, and what have the reactions been? You know, when someone sees what you've created, what do people say?
This is kind of different depending on like the context. So if it's like a exhibition or like a performance where they're supposed to be seen, like that's the intended audience, and everyone's like just wants to come and talk to me about it, which I love because then I get to talk about like the message behind it and sustainability and all that. But like if we're taking them out to like shoot them or something, or just wearing them out and about, then you do get a lot of people kind of congregating and kind of just looking and be like, what the heck? We were shooting in like South Kensington earlier in the year, and it was during like midday, so it's lots of older people around just going for a walk, and they're just like, what is this?
Really? Oh wow.
Maybe
they're in awe of it, perhaps.
Maybe, yeah. It's a good way to look at it, but it's always funny and to see how people react and the different reactions from different people. It's quite exciting.
Sure. Yeah, I'm sure it is. So going back to working with plants, you know, the enjoyable aspect of it, are there any plants that you particularly like working with, or ones that you've used frequently in your designs?
Oh, okay. So this comes into like 3 different sections. So the living plants, recently I really like working with different kinds of clover.
Okay.
I mean, clover's like quite a cool plant anyway, and it can like add nutrients back into the soil, and it grows really well. But like when I'm using it in a textile, because it's like a creeping plant, it kind of changes as it grows, and I really love seeing that like dynamic change in my work. And like every time you look at it, it's like a different experience, because like you've got this clover like starts as like 2 little rosette leaves, and it grows out and like all of these branches. And I guess the same, I like working with like beans and peas as well because of that, because they kind of just get a bit crazy and like completely change as they grow. Then if it comes to like working with plant fibers, I really like flax, which is what makes linen. It's just like it's kind of like silvery and hairy, and it just has this amazing texture, and you can do so many different things with it, and it's so environmentally good as well. Amazing plant to work with. And then I also really like, at the moment, I've been growing my dye garden this year, so I've been growing plants that I can use to dye my living textiles with, and I really enjoyed growing Japanese indigo.
Wow.
I mean, it's crazy that like a green leaf can go to blue anyway, but seeing it from like seed rather than like buying it as a powder and then being able to dye something with it was just amazing. And it's also a really cool plant. You can like literally just chop it into like inch pieces and then put it in water, and then you have like 1,000 indigo plants too.
Really? Wow. Are there any plants that are harder to work with though, that you've had experiences with?
Wheatgrass. So I use wheatgrass like for the roots in my root-based biotextiles, and I love it. It grows really well, but mold is a massive issue with it. It loves to get moldy, and it comes with like a really specific blue kind of mold, and it comes in like on the seed, and you can sterilize the seeds and it still somehow gets moldy. I mean, it doesn't really damage the roots too much unless it gets really bad, but it's just a constant battle trying to find new ways to grow it in like a large setup. So I can get
you're
big
using that for
sheets.
the roots in particular.
Yeah.
Wheatgrass.
Yeah. So
did you ever see there's a lady who makes root art?
Yeah, Rootful. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, I was playing with roots and I found their work and I was like, oh my god, okay, theirs is really good. Like mine compared to that.
That's
No,
really
I love their work. It's beautiful. So I've kind of gone like in a different direction because they've done really amazing stuff like natural roots. So I decided to go more into like a fabrication of making like a usable textile, like mix it with bioplastics, just because I was like, theirs is so amazing. I want to do something different. Like they've reached like the pinnacle here. So it did kind of send me in a different direction. But that's cool. I like that too.
Oh. I got one more thing I want to ask just about different plants to use. Like, have you wondered about like, or have you experimented with, of course, living textiles have got that limited shelf life, but what about kind of like dried material? Like, you know, like weaving together, I don't know, like the stems of teasels, or like, could you make a sweater out of some weaved stems, for example?
This is on my to-do list, actually.
Yeah? Oh, cool.
So in the summer, I got really into like bushcraft and like making like ropes and twines and stuff. And I have a bunch of willow that I have to weave. But it's on my to-do list.
Willow sweater. Yes.
Maybe not a willow sweater, but I was thinking something really sculptural and like super interesting, like making a big wearable shape. But I have.
That's cool.
What have I got? I've got. Is it Montbrea? Montbrea? I can never say that word.
Montbrea?
That one. Yeah. I have like a bunch of their leaves that are hanging and waiting to be woven or processed into string. I also like use the wheatgrass. I make lots of twine and like yarn out of that, which goes into my textiles. But yeah, basically I want to make everything. It's just like I keep collecting material and never have enough time.
Oh, that's amazing. This is so
Yeah.
inspirational, honestly.
So I've got
It's
loads
so
of like
fabulous.
stems and leaves hanging.
Like, you must have so much creativity and passion and ability to do it, because, for example, I have a pile of foliage here on the table. Look.
Oh, Ellen and Craft. Let's talk about
Honestly,
Ellen and Craft.
I collect stuff and have stuff because I want to be more creative, and I just can't do it. It always just looks such a mess.
I'm the same. I'm always crafted with big hands. I wanted to release a book one day, crafted with big hands, because it's not easy.
Honestly, it's just, I think it's a lot of it comes from having like a fashion background. My degree was in knitwear, so I learned a lot about fabricating from like a fibre and yarn from scratch, and it's been really helpful, like having that knowledge and taking it into like doing lots of experimental things. But a lot of the time I'm learning as I go. There's just a lot of failures that just don't make it out of like the studio or go straight in the compost bin. Yeah,
that sounds a little bit like the wreath I made last night. I was about
Oh no,
midnight
did it not go right?
No, it looks absolutely awful.
I'm laughing at Ellen, but I'm just as bad with craft, so yeah.
I'm going to pull it apart and redo it today because I'm that unhappy with it. But anyway, I spent hours last night doing it and it's all coming apart. Beth, back to you. Tell us what your career plans are. Like, what's your future goals? Do you have any future designs in mind? What would you like to achieve?
So I try to think not too far in the future, just because with my health, it's very up and down. So I don't like to make long-term plans because then I don't get disappointed. So I kind of work in the present. So I don't really I just want to keep doing what I'm doing and collaborating more and more with like different artists and designers. I'm actually had a call this morning about working with a service that collects sound waste. So going to be using some human hair to make some living textiles, hopefully, which is going to be really exciting.
Wow.
So I just want to, keep collaborating, keep building my practice, keep developing my textiles, and just going where it grows, I guess, going where it evolves, and just seeing what comes to me through what I'm doing as well.
Oh,
Excellent.
So much fun.
I just cut about 6 inches off my hair. You could have had that.
Once you announce that you're doing a hair project, you will get loads of hair in the post, won't you? And all your relatives.
Probably, yeah. I did like a dog fur yarn once. I think I posted it to my TikTok, which is kind of like where I post all like the processes I do. It's like my visual diary by TikTok. So I have 2 Labradors and they shed like twice a year. And I was like, this is really soft. Maybe I can spin this into a yarn. And I kind of like went down the rabbit hole of like dog hair yarn is like, it's a thing. Like there are certain Indigenous American nations that are known for having bred dogs for fibre. So maybe I'm going to go down a rabbit hole of all like the different uses of human hair in history.
That is so amazing, honestly. Oh, and I think also, like, let's talk about social media for a moment, actually, because do you feel like social media kind of, it almost like helps creativity a little bit, because we kind of see different ideas and we get like, and it's nice to show what we're creating, and that kind of like, does that like gee you on to do more? And kind of like, how do you feel about how social media and showcasing your work and how that propels you forward as well?
I mean, personally, social media has been an amazing tool for me. It's like I always used to get yelled at when I was doing my degree. My poor tutors were like, you're posting too much. People are going to copy you. Like, they're going to rip off your work. And I was like, no, but I like sharing it especially, I think it started in lockdown. Like, I was shielding, like I couldn't go out, and social media became my community, and I met all these different creatives from like different parts of the industry, like hobby creators even, all the way up to fellow fashion designers. And like all of these connections have just made my practice stronger and like brought so many like opportunities. So for me, social media is very much like a community where we get to like find people you wouldn't usually like meet in your usual like life, and find people like outside of your own discipline who connect to your work, and then you're able to kind of collaborate and learn a lot from a very, very different practice. And it's also great about like getting my message out as well, because with social media, like you see a lot of like influencers collaborating with fast fashion brands, and social media is also it's kind of become like, I kind of say it's like in a symbiotic relationship with like fast fashion and consumption. Social media can be, because you have all these brands like using influencers and influential people to be like, oh look, new clothes, come and buy. But I can kind of use the same platform to do the opposite, to say like, well, my clothes give back to the earth, they degrade. What do your clothes do? And kind of like prompt conversations on consumption, and maybe we shouldn't be listening to the people who are paid to promote buying thousands of pounds from fast fashion. But I do get the negatives of it. Like people can be mean. People can be mean, but I have a lot of people who reach out to me who want to share their opinions, and they're not necessarily nice, but I kind of try and take it, look at the positives of it, and like really look at what they're saying and see if like I actually can make an improvement from that, or it's just them being mean.
That's a really good way of approaching it as well, and a lot of people wouldn't. So yeah, really, really cool. So where can people find out more about you and your designs? Because you're on TikTok, Instagram. Let us know what the account names are, and also anywhere else that people can find you.
Yeah, so my names are all different because I just haven't got around to like consolidating them yet. My TikTok is Knit Mom Beth, so Knit MOM Beth. That has a weird story behind it. And then my Instagram is BXBeth. And then also my website is, I also like kind of try and keep it up to date. My portfolio is there and everything. So that's beth-williams.co.uk. Or if people just want to know more or ask questions, they can just email me as well. I love receiving emails with like people just asking questions and wanting to know more. Cool. You can reach me at bethanywilliams2110@gmail.com.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for spending time chatting with us on the podcast. I think it's really cool what you're doing. I love how you're approaching social media to, do things the opposite way to what generally it is. And it's been a real pleasure to chat with you. I look forward to seeing your designs in the future.
Thank you. Yeah, I can't wait to see where things go next.
Yeah, exciting.
Very unique. We're here for it.
Thank you. Thank you
very much.
Hi everyone, how are you all doing? So, I don't know if you're going to listen to my gossip first or Michael's gossip first, but we're gossiping separately this week because Michael double booked me. Yeah, so he dumped me for the theatre. I mean, honestly, I think I'd probably do the same if it was the other way round. So, in our separate gossips, I mean, I don't think I'm going to be quite as exciting as Michael's trip to Europe when he tells you all about that. But I can tell you as a gardener that being in North Carolina in late winter is so hard to work out what to do, because one day it's like -10 overnight and then the next day it's 20 degrees. So it's kind of like freezing cold or boiling hot. And I don't know where I'm at. It's that kind of weather where you don't really know what to wear when you go out So I don't know how the plants cope with it. What I can tell you is I have a roof terrace and most of the plants didn't make it. So I'm just going to see that as an opportunity to create something different this year. And honestly, I think that's probably what I'm going to have to do most years, kind of treat all of the plants on the balcony and roof terrace, that is, as annuals. At the front of the house, we have a border and some things are popping up. So I've got some bulbs popping up, which is really exciting. And I know this time of year is so fun as a gardener because it brings so much hope, doesn't it? Bulbs popping up through the soil, and I've got some ferns showing signs of life as well. So it's really lovely to see things kind of popping up. And also the bird song. If you haven't been outside yet at this time of year and just stood on a warmer day and listened to the birds, it is such a joy, because on a warmer day, even just a few degrees warmer, the birds are just loving life, and it is just such a beautiful thing. And I was reading something once that bird song lifts us up because it's so familiar, and we know that it means, that the season is moving on and spring will be here soon. So I'm here in North Carolina, and there was a mockingbird on the tree outside our house, and it was singing all day long. It was so lovely. So on my balcony I've got a veggie pod. It doesn't have the lid on it because that actually blew away once in a hurricane. We did retrieve it, but I've never put it back on. And it's full of herbs, so the herbs are doing fine. It's in quite a sheltered space. And thankfully, I've got a little bit of colour going on with the trusted pansies and violas for this time of year, and some winter brassicas as well. So nothing fancy, I've got to say, but I think this year on the roof terrace, because it's so hot and so sunny, I'm going to go cacti. So cacti and succulents. So that's my plan. That's what I'm doing. I've been flicking through the Baker Creek Seeds catalogue. If you haven't looked at one of those, you absolutely must, because, wow, I mean, it is just absolutely incredible. I've got some other local ones here as well to look through. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I'm going to be doing a lot more native planting. Let's see if I can get a monarch up on the balcony this year. That would be awesome. Apart from that, I'm now getting really deep into planning the People Plants Wellbeing Retreat, which is coming up in April. I have one unheated accommodation available and one heated. So if you're interested in a weekend of nature immersion, it's truly magical. I can't begin to tell you how wonderful the weekend is. We do yoga and meditation, but we also go on walks and have some fun, have lots of delicious food. It's just really lovely environment to be in. So one heated, one unheated accommodation. They can both be single, twin or double. So if you're interested, check out peopleplantswellbeing.com. I'd love you to come along. You'll meet some other well-known Instagram faces there as well. So that's really, really cool. So yeah, generally just kind of enjoying the change of season. And I'm off to Yosemite next week or the week after. Yeah, so I'm going over to California and going to meander around the giant redwoods in the Socoa National Park, and then going up to Yosemite in the snow and staying in a cabin and just enjoying more nature. So that's it. That's my gossip, basically. And thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thought it was really cool to talk with Beth about living textiles. That's really, really cool. So check out her stuff. And we will be back very soon in a couple of weeks with the next episode. Happy gardening.
Oh, good morning, dear friends. You may or may not have heard from Ellen already. We're doing separate gossips this week because I made a bit of a diary boo-boo and I double booked her, and I was already going to the theatre, and of course I have to keep the cultural appointment. So we're doing tiny little separate gossips this week just to catch you guys up on stuff. I hope you enjoyed the episode, which is all about living materials. How cool is that? Sorry. I just arrived back home after about 2.5 weeks in Europe. It was really awesome. You guys know about the catwalk show. After that, I was at the German trade event where we did the special episode with Nat Nat from Happy Plants. And then this last week, I've been at the Plantarium, which is a Dutch trade event as well. But now I've arrived home. I don't know where anything is. Racing off to a photo shoot right now as well. It's a busy diary. I don't know how this always happens. But I feel like it was quite nice to bypass the end of January because I guess people in the Netherlands don't like January either, but because I don't understand all the language, I'm not privy to their complaining about it as I would be in the UK. So it was very nice to bypass all that. Oh, I've just noticed my neighbour's got some very nice plants on their balcony. That is impressive. Really nice containers too. I've really, really got to sort out my balcony. I picked up at the garden centre just yesterday lots of little spring bulbs in pots, and I've dotted them all around the apartment. It's so nice, that kind of feeling when you have your muscari, narcissus, all of that jazz. So yeah, it's cool. My houseplants look good after 2.5 weeks abandoned, but dear listener, you know that I am a size queen when it comes to houseplants. I like to go for the bigger ones that tend to look after themselves that much more. So I've got them in massive troughs. So, massive trough. What a great phrase. But I've got a couple of new ones in front of me. I've got a banana plant and a monstera, obliqua, no less, in my nice little basket containers. Ooh. What's coming up next week? We've got a shoot with QVC. I'm also at Pershaw College doing a little presentation about my trends. I'll just get up and talk, really. That's what I normally do. I like to talk instinctively, from the heart, as it were. But why do I keep waking up early? I keep waking up at like 6 a.m. I feel like my body clock only ever needs 8 hours of sleep. So if I go to bed at 10, I will wake at 6. I'm going to test that out and go to bed at 11 tonight. But I'm getting old, I'm too tired to stay awake any more than that. So I have to kind of roll with it sometimes. So, yeah. QVC this weekend, we've got some great shows. You'll listen to this on Sunday, so I can't promote them to you. But if you did watch them, they were amazing, just so you know. How is my dear Ellen? I miss her. I probably won't see her again until April, I would say. But yeah, I wonder what she's been up to, because she's also a busy bee with a whole medley of different projects here and there. Make sure you book onto her retreat as well. I see that there is one final accommodation left with heating. If I'm there, I'm probably just chucked in the shed. I don't get heating. But yeah, if you do go, then I hope you have a great time. I don't think I can make it because it clashes with something else. I need to double check that, actually. Sorry, I'm going to go and check my diary. Hope you guys are well and you enjoyed our miniature separate gossips. Bye-bye. Introducing our sponsors, LAVA-LITE. LAVA-LITE Plus, the orange one. LAVA-LITE Plus is a natural grow media all-rounder. It's perfect for borders and great as a pot topper, both in the home and the garden. It offers thermal protection for cold winter nights, as well as holding up to 25% moisture. Look out for it online and in your local gardening stores. The music for the Plant-Based podcast is part of the song Grow by Mikey James, and our editor is Gareth Patch of Semi Echo.